Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments, and thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about auctions. We're going to be talking specifically about the four types of auction houses that make up the entire antiques and collectibles trade. Doesn't matter if we're talking about high-end art that sells for hundreds of millions of dollars per painting, rare coins, or anything in between, whether it's vintage Star Wars figures, Pokemon cards, graded video games, whatever it is. We are going to be talking about specifically the four types of auction companies that cater to the entire antiques and collectibles trade. Now, before we start, you need to realize that auctions are nothing new. The first recorded auction dates back to 500 BC, back in Babylonian times, where auctions of women for marriage were held annually. The auctions actually began with the women the auctioneer considered to be the most attractive and progressed to the least attractive. Sorry to sound misogynistic, I'm just teaching history right there. Now, this is important to note because where really auction companies got their start was right around the Industrial Revolution. And if you don't know what year the Industrial Revolution occurred on a worldwide basis, it was 1760. So that's why as we start talking about the top 5 international auction houses that are on a global scale and pretty much dominate the entire antiques and collectibles trade, you're going to see that a lot of prominent auction companies that you've heard of were actually formed in London right around the time of the industrialized revolution. And it's very important to note that vast amounts of wealth were created out of the Industrial Revolution, and this led to a lot of wealthy individuals wanting to own things that they considered scarce and valuable, more likely high-end pieces of art, antiques, and antiquities. As I've said before on this channel, the antiques and collectibles trade is nothing new. It's just the objects that people covet in the year 2024 are sometimes a little bit different than what they coveted back in the 1760s. So we're going to go through this list, and how I'm going to present this material is we are going to talk about different auction houses that would qualify as being international. Then we're going to talk about regional auction houses, then specialty, and then local. Now, obviously, the auction houses that most people are aware of, that they heard about, even if they are not active in the antiques and collectibles trade, are international auction houses. Because by utilizing the term international, we're talking about auction companies that have a global presence. So let's talk about the 5 big boys. And we're going to start with the oldest known prominent auction company still in existence. Does anybody know what auction company that is? I am sure you guys heard of this company before. It is, drumroll please, Sotheby's. Sotheby's is one of the oldest and most prominent auction companies still in existence. They were founded in London in 1744. Today, in the year 2024, they have locations in New York, Paris, Hong Kong, and Geneva. They are known for very high-end art, jewelry, and related collectible artifacts that cater to a very ultra-high net worth clientele. Case in point, Sotheby's is one of the big players on the high-end art market. These are the people that sell the paintings that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to high-profile billionaires and entrepreneurs that, again, have a net worth in the billions to be able to play in this market. Now, competing directly with Sotheby's is another well-known international auction house that you've all most likely heard of, and that is Christie's. Christie's was also founded in London back in 1766. They, too, have locations all across the globe, most prominently in New York, Paris, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. They are also known for $100 million paintings, as well as higher-end collectibles, jewelry, and antiquities as well. Now, competing directly with Sotheby's and Christie's is Bonhams. Bonhams was founded in London in 1793. They currently have locations in New York, Los Angeles, and Hong Kong. And they too specialize in art, higher-end collectibles, watches, and of course, jewelry. Competing with Sotheby's, Christie's, and Bonhams is Phillips. Phillips is probably another auction house that a lot of you have heard of. They were founded in London in 1796. They have locations in New York, Hong Kong, and Geneva. They tend to focus on higher-end art, but also art from emerging artists. That is kind of their niche specialty market in the art realm. And they also do deal in higher-end antiquities, antiques, artifacts, again, that all cater to a higher clientele. Now, before I name the fifth auction house on this list, which may surprise some of you, I just want to let you guys know the reason that all of these four previous international auction houses were all founded in London is because you got to remember, America did not gain their independence until 1776. All of the companies that I just named, with the exception of two, Bonhams and Phillips, were all formed previously before 1776. Europe and London was pretty much considered the center of trade, the center of international high life, and also, of course, was also affected by the Industrial Revolution. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the fifth international auction company on this list? And this is probably going to surprise some of you because there is a caveat here. Believe it or not, the fifth major international player is actually Heritage Auctions, which was founded in Dallas, Texas, the same year I was born, 1976. Now, you notice I said there is a caveat here. Heritage Auctions does not cater to the ultra $10 million, $100 million plus art market at present time. They cater to what is known as the mid-range art market. It's still extremely viable, and it has a lot of action from ultra high net worth collectors and bidders. It's just that most of this art is in the 6 to lower 7-digit range. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to maybe a couple of $1 million. Heritage Auctions is more well known for higher end antiques and collectibles, rare coins, sports memorabilia, more up and coming pop culture collectibles, comic books, Pokemon cards, graded video games, items of that nature. But make no mistake, Heritage is a major player. They are considered one of the top 5 international auction houses that make up the entire antiques and collectibles trade, and they control their proverbial markets with an iron fist. Heritage Auctions, even though they were founded in Dallas, Texas, they have locations in New York, Beverly Hills, London, Tokyo, Spain, France, and many more. They, of course, specialize in higher-end collectibles. That is their proverbial bread and butter. Now, those 5 pretty much have an international lock on the higher-end market for antiques, antiquities, art, and collectibles. As a matter of fact, you're going to see in other videos, we are going to start to talk about what I hinted in my video that I did, where I talk about private equity, lack of transparency in the overall antiques and collectibles trade, because Sotheby's and Christie's were allegedly accused of price fixing. There are a lot of unethical behaviors that have been alleged to go on behind the scenes at a lot of auction companies. We are going to discuss these allegations in another video. Now, you're probably wondering, if you already covered the international auction houses, what the hell is a regional auction house? Well, I'm glad you asked. Thank you so much, Timmy S. Poindexter Jr., because we're getting to that next. A regional auction house is just that. It's a large auction house that is not as big as an international auction house, meaning usually it caters to a region or a specific country. It is not global. It may have a division that's global, but again, it's not on par with a company like Sotheby's or Christie's or even Heritage Auctions. So let me give you an example of two main regional auction houses. If you've ever heard of Golden Auctions, that qualifies right now as a regional auction house. Maybe Golden would disagree. Golden right now, though, is not as large by any magnitude as Heritage Auctions or a Christie's or a Bonhams or a Sotheby's or a Phillips. So Golden Auctions would be a perfect example of a regional auction house. They are really located in their home base of New Jersey. Morphy's Auctions, that got their start right near me out of Adamstown, Pennsylvania. I'm roughly an hour away from there. Morphy's Auctions, they have a location also in Las Vegas. They would be a prime example of a regional auction house that caters to the entire antiques and collectibles trade. So that's a prime example of a regional auction house. Another example would be Cowan's. If you've ever heard of Cowan's Auctions out of Cincinnati, Ohio, they tend to cater to more traditional antiques, manuscripts, occasionally art glass, other related items of that nature. They do sometimes cater to the high end, but it's mostly mid-range to high end. So they do sell quality pieces. It just depends on what you collect. That's another example of a regional auction house. These are companies that are not yet on par with the international players. Okay? So now we're going to talk about specialty auction houses. Because a lot of people will come to me, Sean, what is a specialty auction house? Well, I'm going to define it for you. These are typically smaller auction houses that specialize in only one or a few types of different antiques and collectibles. Case in point, Comic Link is a good example of a specialty auction house because they pretty much cater solely to comic books and comic book art. So that's a prime example of a specialty auction house. Other examples that I'm going to name for you, Hakes Auctions is an example of a specialty auction house. They can also sometimes be considered a regional auction house, but the thing that you got to be aware of at Hakes is that they pretty much specialize in pop culture collectibles and memorabilia. So just based on that premise alone, they would more roll up under the term of being a specialty auction house. Stacks and Bowers is a specialty auction house. They cater to coins and currency, and they have an office right in Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. I've been there many times on Market Street. That is one of their locations where you can schedule a consultation with them. You can bring something to consign, or if you have a question, you can call them, you can walk in, and you can make an appointment, and you can discuss buying a piece or consigning a piece, as long as it relates to coins and currency. They are a specialty auction house. Other examples, if you ever heard of American Bottle Auctions out of Sacramento, California, they cater to any type of antique and vintage glass bottle. So does Glassworks Auctions, which is in my neck of the woods out of Greenville, Pennsylvania. They also cater to antique and vintage glass. Another example, if you want one more of specialty auction houses, if you ever heard of LCG Auctions, they're out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They're fairly new in the scene. They are a company that is considered a specialty auction house. So right now we've gone through international auction houses, the main 5 players. We've talked about regional auction houses, and we've talked about specialty auction houses. What's remaining? Local auction houses. These are your mom and pop auctioneers. For instance, maybe you need to clean out an estate. Maybe you have a relative that dies and maybe they weren't really much of a collector, or maybe they just had some low value collections, maybe some more modern Hot Wheels cars, modern era video games, VHS tapes, some comic books lying around, and you call up one of these local auction companies and they come in and they appraise everything and they handle the whole estate. That's an example of a local auction house. These are more run by small mom and pop shops, entrepreneurs, and the like. These are at, I hate to say this because I know there's a lot of good, hardworking people out there that run local auction houses, so please don't take offense by me stating this, but this is more the lower tier auction companies that will pretty much come in and they will conduct an auction on site for your great Aunt Edna's belongings. If she kicks the bucket and you just want to liquidate the estate, you can even utilize some of these auction companies if you want to sell real estate, farm equipment, livestock, believe it or not. This all rolls up usually through a local auction house. So I normally don't recommend, like if you have something that really valuable and you want to get rid of it, it usually doesn't pay to contact a local auction house. If you have a valuable collection, for that, obviously, you're going to want to go through either a specialty auction house or a regional auction house, or if it's really high-end, an international auction house. But local auction houses do serve a purpose, and they're usually comprised of very ethical and honest auctioneers who work very hard and have a good stellar reputation in the community by and large. So those are the 4 types of auction companies that make up the entire antiques and collectibles trade. Again, we are going to do a deep dive in this going forward. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if there's something you would like me to cover in an upcoming video on this topic, let me know in the comment section below. I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.